Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Chat North Carolina. And my name is Shauna, and I'm the host of Let's Chat North Carolina. And today we have a very interesting guest, and his name is Charlie. Hi. And today we're going to be talking about something that most of us, we really don't want to face in our lives, but it's something that most of us will sooner or later at some point have to deal with, whether it's for yourself or for a family member. And Mr. Charlie High has a very interesting occupation, and we're going to talk to him about what he does for a living. He is a end-of-life doula. And Charlie High, welcome to Let's Chat North Carolina. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you, Chana. It's my pleasure.
All right. Well, I have my handy little list here because I want to be very specific today, because what we're going to talk about, as I mentioned before, is something that people tend to steer away from because it's a very sensitive topic, and it's something that doesn't bring joy to people in most instances. And it's just something that we just don't want to talk about, and that is death and transitioning over and going through the grieving process. And you have a very unique business where this is what you deal with on a day-to-day basis as part of your business. My first question to you, Charlie, is how did you get into this industry as an end-of-life doula, and what exactly is an end-of-life doula?
Yeah, I took that second part of the question first. What is an end-of-life doula? Most people have heard of birth doulas. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a midwife who ushers life into the world. Mm-hmm. If you kind of reverse that or flip it, a death doula actually assists people who are imminently about to leave this world. And so we provide different kinds of care, and I'll get into that in a minute. But how did I get into this? How did I gravitate towards it? I'm going to go back many years to when I was in the Army right after high school. Okay. And I was a combat medic, nurse's aide, and I was assigned to a geriatrics ward at Fort Knox, Kentucky. And with that assignment, I had to take care of people who were terminally ill, retirees. As I did that, I got to know them intimately. I had to bathe them, comb their hair, help them eat, help them dress, and even when they died, put the tag on the toe and take them to the morgue down in the basement. But you cannot discount the relationship that was established. Sometimes I would take care of them for 6 months or so. I would sit by the bedside and listen to the stories about yesteryear, and they could remember it like it was yesterday. And I gained so much wisdom doing that. So I think if you look at every job that we have as probably training for an ultimate career, and then I look back on it, of course, in hindsight. Fast forward now, years ago also, there were two men in my life who were very important, my stepfather and father. Both of these men considered themselves tough. My father was a drill sergeant in the Army. My stepfather considered himself a street fighter. He liked to start stuff. Okay. But the thing about it, China, is neither one of these tough men had addressed final wishes planning. Okay. And when they were both terminally ill with some type of cancer, I saw how afraid they were to confront the reality of death. And they left us with burdens instead of legacies. And so I internalized all of that. And if I could probably go to the biggest point of how I got into this, it's when my wife's son was a victim of gun violence, and he was killed in Rocky Mount in 2018. Wow. And at the hospital, we were left to make the decision on whether to donate his organs or not, because the thing about the organs, you have to do it get those organs transplanted in pretty quick order. And so as we are preparing to remove him from life support, we're meeting also with the people who want the organs. So it was kind of an awkward journey for us. And so it kind of made me, when I started doing aftercare for the funeral home, and aftercare just means checking on families who lost loved ones and making sure that they were doing okay and seeing if they needed any resources. As I did that and experiencing my stepson's death, I said, I got to do better at educating people about final wishes planning. And so it just fired me up, and now I'm on a mission to let everyone know that final wishes planning is important, because whether we want to think about it or not, 100% of us will die.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just, and what you just said, I'm glad you gave me a little bit of background because I had no idea that all of that existed, which led up till today. But you are absolutely correct. None of us are going to get out of here alive. And I think it's just the thought process of actually, taking that in and realizing that we all have an expiration date. We just don't know where, when, or how it's going to happen. And I think that's the scary part, and that it keeps us from talking about it. We all love weddings. We love baby showers. But, as you mentioned, we will one day leave up out of here. And like with your father, your stepfather, and them not having things in place, left you with a burden. So I think it's very important that we actually consider this, and this is something that we probably should talk about at the dinner table, because it's inevitable. We're all going to face that situation at some point in time in our life. Because of the nature of what you do, is there a certain certificate or background or some type of schooling that you went to just to kind of give you this knowledge base, or is it just something that you picked up along the way and you just turned it into a business?
Well, interestingly enough, most of us serve as doulas in some capacity and don't realize it. When we're taking care of older relatives who are in bad shape or have been given that terminal diagnosis, and we're assisting them with doctor's appointments, we're helping them bathe, we're helping them take their medications. We're making sure that they have final wishes planning done, because it's going to affect those family members intimately. So we're doing it informally anyway.
Yeah.
What I do is just to formalize it, or death doulas have formalized it a little bit more. As far as training, there is no standardized certification.
Okay.
But there are many training courses offered, especially online, to give you that background. And I encourage people, if you're interested in going down this road and knowing more about it, just go ahead and go online and do some of the classes. The thing about the certificate is it's not something that's you can take anywhere in different places. It's something that you do on your own. I would also encourage people. I was a hospice volunteer for about 5 years. That was probably some of the best training I could have gotten, and it prepared me hands-on. Indeed, it prepared me.
You can't deny that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, there's really no standardized, and I think as we become more formal and death doulas become more popular, I think it will become regulated at some point, almost like birth doulas.
Okay.
So we're heading that way, and you're helping us get the word out, so I appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. I just, we met through a mutual client. You have a different type of service that you render during the day, and I'm just so glad that I was able to meet you. Now, as far as your services, are you able to do this in other states outside of North Carolina, or is it just North Carolina that you're able to do these services?
Well, I just specialize on North Carolina mainly because of the distance and travel involved. Now, with that being said, I've been as far west as, the other side of Greensboro, east to Tarboro, south to Lumberton. So I'll cover the whole state to assist people, but because it's not regulated, I could travel outside the state and also help someone.
Oh, wonderful. That's great for our viewers to know. So if someone were close by Virginia, Florida, or in another state, would you be willing to provide your services to someone in another state? Because what you do, like I said, is isolated. There's you were the first doula, end-of-life doula that I've ever heard of, and I just thought it was so interesting. So viewers who are watching, Charlie just mentioned that he's willing to travel to your state and help you through your grieving process. Another question that I have, because you see so much grief and you see people in certain situations, how do you keep going when you're always surrounded by that grief, that death, people transitioning, and people aren't at their happiest moments in their life? How do you stay sane? How do you just stay together dealing with that all the time?
Well, one thing is I'm in charge of my schedule, so to speak. So I try not to overburden myself with too many visits in one day. And in between visits, I take time to decompress.
Okay.
I go out into nature. I'll spend time at the parks. I'll listen to the birds. It puts me in that present moment because that's really all we have, and it takes my focus off my own problems. Sometimes when you realize someone else is dealing with things much worse than you are, it kind of lets you appreciate where you're at. I think we spend a lot of time worrying about tomorrow. And the thing about
Right.
death is we can't control when it comes. So part of my philosophy is to just enjoy the moment. Not
Be present.
Indeed.
Right. And it's so hard to do. It's easy to say that, but it's so
is.
hard to do because this society does not allow you to relax.
Yes.
And a lot of times it does not allow you to be present. And we're always thinking 10 or 15, and which you should think 10 or 15 years, especially if you have a generational legacy that you want to leave behind. You're thinking about your kids, you're thinking about your grandkids, you're thinking about the people who aren't even born yet in your family. So, I mean, being present is kind of easy to say sometimes, but, you know, because we're always thinking ahead, and the society kind of puts you in a position to always think ahead. But being present day to day is very important too.
It is.
And decompressing your
Certainly.
life so that you can continue to go on.
Indeed.
Right.
Yes. And the fact that I know death will come to my address one day allows me to spend more time being present. So I'm getting constant reminders on a daily basis that being present is important because someone's just lost a loved one. My aftercare is really important to me because a lot of the families are not checked on after the service. So this is how my aftercare business was actually born, me teaming up with funeral homes to say, let me at least send them a text message.
Yeah.
Let me send them an email. Let me call them. Let me go by and visit and just let them know we're thinking about you during this time. And the response has been remarkable. They love it. They can't believe that someone took time out to just check on them. Because grief is such an awkward journey and process, and it's such an individual process. Some people don't know what to expect. So when I can share with them what other families have shared with me, it just kind of keeps us under that same umbrella. And we realize that, okay, I'm not losing my mind. This is part of grief. And so it's very enlightening to people who are experiencing these situations.
And you know, Charlie, that is just so awesome. It takes a certain spirit and humbleness to just be able to connect with people during the most tragic time of their life. And from experience and the nature of what you do too, part of your other service-based business, there's a lot of people that don't have kids who just grew up most of their life. They never thought they'd be in a position where they would need someone like you. They don't have extended family. And it's more of that even so now. People who just work most of their life to provide a certain lifestyle, and they just never thought they'd get old and need somebody. So you stepping in with your aftercare services and your transitional services for those people who don't have family, that's a major plus in their life to have somebody like you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And it's born out of just caring for people and knowing that I might be in that situation one day. And how would I want to be treated? I want a resource available. So
Right.
That's where my passion comes from.
Yeah, because none of us know. We can be up today and in a hospital bed tomorrow.
That's right.
And so that makes you just want to grab life and just live it the way that you can in the present moment. Do right by people so that if you do need care one day, that those people are willing to reach out and give you a helping hand.
Certainly.
So it matters.
Yeah, and back reference to my stepfather and father, as tough as these men were, they were not, in my mind, confronting the ultimate bully, death. They did not leave me a good example on how to deal with. Even though they would say, Charlie, you need to confront the bully. There's only one way to deal with the bully. With death, they ran the other way. Now, I'm not saying be ready to die. I'm just saying be prepared.
Be prepared.
There's a difference.
Now, preparation, what does that look like? What should they do? Is that's one of my questions on my list here, and I made sure I wrote everything down. How should someone prepare? Life insurance policies, of course, we understand that's very necessary. Getting all your legal financial stuff in order. What should somebody do to prepare for that time?
Yeah, and also realizing that no one is 100% prepared all the time because things change just that quick.
Exactly.
But generally speaking, you mentioned life insurance, certainly. Part of that, having a life insurance is also making sure you're reevaluating it on a regular basis to see if it's still adequate insurance because funerals and cremation services price increase every year. And so that same policy you had 15 years ago may not be adequate today. So sometimes people will call me to evaluate their insurance policy. And I'm a life insurance agent, but they're not necessarily wanting life insurance from me. It's just, can you explain my policy to me? Can you make sure that this policy will do what it's supposed to do? And they trust me enough to do that with my aftercare business. So I love that. A big part of our Founding Wishes plan is going to be wheels and living will. And I usually have to make sure I explain that to people, the difference, because even before I started doing this, I wasn't too clear on it. I would get wills and living wills mixed up. But a will is just estate planning, a will or a trust. You're just planning for how your assets will be distributed. Now, a living will, anytime you hear living will, you want to think healthcare. You want to appoint a healthcare agent, someone who's going to make the healthcare decisions for you in the event that you can't, that you are unconscious or you're not able to make those decisions for yourself. Appoint someone you trust to do that. And the second part of that living will is also making your declaration known. What kind of pain medication would you like? Would you want to be fed intravenously and nutrition intravenously, even if the doctor said the pain medication is going to speed up your death? So you're already making those decisions known for your healthcare agent, so it helps them not have to shoulder the weight of the whole decision-making process. So living will, estate planning will, life insurance, and having the conversation about these things is so important, Jana. Sometimes families will call me just to facilitate the discussion because it's such...
No one wants to deal with it.
No one wants to deal with it. And there's so many issues with families involved where the siblings are jealous of one another about something with the estate. So I have to come in and facilitate. Again, I don't tell them what to do.
You're the liaison. You're the in-between guy because they can't get along.
Exactly.
Wow. Even in situations like that, that just brings up another point, how families can just be so disconnected, even during the final hours, how they just can't come together and get it done and just say, hey, let's all come together. It's great that you're there, but you shouldn't have to be the liaison with the family. And it's just kind of, kind of sad, really, that they would even have to call on you, a family, to solve their matters at the final hour. But it's good that you're there, though, to be able to work as their liaison.
I don't know how many times I've heard, Mr. Hyde, we don't need a will. We get along fine until death happens. And then they're fighting over who gets the TV, who gets the living room furniture. So I said, put this in writing, okay? I understand y'all get along fine now, but death changes everything.
Everything.
It does.
Absolutely. It's crazy.
It is.
It really is. So on that note, I love your marketing. And I think I talked to you about that before. Your TikTok videos, your YouTube videos, even though you're talking about, a morbid situation, you almost make it's like you have like a little movie series going on. Tell me more about how you got into your TikTok videos, your YouTube videos, how you put your costumes on. You even did one where you were like, what do you call yourself, the Grim Reaper?
The Grim Reaper.
It is hilarious what you do on those TikTok videos and those YouTube videos. How did you get into that?
Well, I started with Facebook doing my short videos, and I call them high-sci flashes.
Right.
The reason I say high-sci flashes is because it represents the lightning that's striking in our lives, and the reverberation of the thunder because it impacts many others in the family when someone loses a loved one.
Right.
So it can happen just like that. And so the lightning is the flash, and high society is high society, my name and my business, so it's high side flash. So I started on YouTube first because most of the population that I need to deal with are going to be a little older.
Yeah.
And YouTube was very popular, of course, initially with some of the older people. And so years ago, I said, when TikTok came out, I said, I really can't see how I can transfer this to TikTok because it didn't seem to fit. And I don't want to be phony. And how do you make people laugh with these videos? And so at some point, the Grim Reaper idea came to me. And I ordered the costumes, Grim Reaper. And what I'll do from time to time is just try to find something that relates to what we deal with every day.
Yeah.
And the fact that whether we admit it or not, death is somewhere in the background looming. Whether we consciously admit it or not, it's there. And so this is just a way to remind people with a short, humorous clip, which TikTok is built for, that death is coming our way. And can we laugh about it? I mean, someone said there's beauty in the inevitable.
Yeah.
And part of what I do is confront something that's coming our way anyway.
Right.
But can we find a way to find humor in it? And
Yeah.
TikTok has allowed me to do that. And it allows me to express a little creativity. And the thing about TikTok, if I can't laugh at it, I don't post it. So I laugh at myself. And
Which is the best medicine. Laughter is the best medicine. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, my TikTok is HySci57, HYSY57, and you can find me, of course, on Facebook, High Society Aftercare and Consulting.
Okay. And your YouTube channel name?
Yes, High Society Aftercare and Consulting, the whole name for Facebook.
Okay. Okay.
YouTube is HySci Flash. I'm sorry.
High Side Flash.
Yes,
Okay.
HYSY Flash.
Okay, you guys make sure that you go get entertained by Mr. Charlie High. His videos are hilarious. I mean, they just are a little different. You might have to get used to them, but they're hilarious. I mean, it was just, I was like, wow, okay. But Charlie, it has been a pleasure having you here on Let's Chat North Carolina. And I told you when I met you, I was going to bring you onto the show because I wanted people to know about what you do because it's so interesting. And I'm glad that we made that day happen. And for everyone who has tuned into this video, I hope you got some information from watching this video. You can always reach out to Charlie. And we have a couple of sponsors that we'd like to give a shout out to. The first one is Big Boyz Mobile Car Detailing. If you need your car washed, if you need your tires washed, if you need anything that needs to be cleaned in your vehicle, Big Boyz Mobile Car Detail will be the guys that you want to call. And they also do carpet cleaning and power washing as well. And you can reach them at 919-614-8873. And we also have another sponsor, and her name is Naima, and she's a local esthetician, and she just recently opened up a esthetician studio here in North Raleigh, and you need to go check her out, and all of their information will be right at the bottom of our description box in our YouTube video here. And we thank you for tuning in to another episode of Let's Chat North Carolina. You guys have a great day and take care.